This is Mr. Everything, and I am coming back at you with another Wargaming in miniature video. In this video, it's going to be multiple parts. It's going to be my epic Waterloo project update, but it's also going to kind of lean in on my store update as well, and just think of it as a multi-part video. It's going to be, I've got a lot of news. A lot of new things came in for my project, and it will influence future projects. So sit back, relax, take this in. I had so many to share, or so many, a variety of different things to share that I wanted to go ahead and share them now. I was excited to share them with you now, but just understand that on Wednesday morning, 11 o'clock, I have a Wednesday live stream. Come out and check that out. I'm going to basically be, because that's like a 2-hour time frame that I dedicate for you guys, that I'll elaborate deeper on each of these topics. I'm not really going to elaborate on them today. I just want to share them quickly with you. So this is kind of a preamble to Wednesday. Okay, so I've got what you see on the table right here is my Dutch Lancers that I had finished. Magister Militarum or Magister Militum 10mm Dutch Lancers. I think they turned out extremely well. I was, or am, I should say, very pleased. Let's just say that. I'm super pleased. I also had been able to use my GMB 15mm Dutch Lancer flag. Even though it's a 15mm flag and it's too big, right? Because it's about 2mm too big, something like that, because the flag is actually smaller than a man's height. So even if you double it, you're still not getting the full difference between 10 and 15mm. So it's actually about 2mm too big, which in actual measurement of the flag, which I don't mind. I like that. I like the effect that larger flags give. You already know that. If you've been watching my channel, you know this. Okay, so I did some Belgian militia right here. I think that looks good. That looks very, it looks like a large unit. It looks like a bunch of dudes, right? Would you agree? Okay, I agree. In Napoleon's battles, this formation right here would be 4 figures. In black powder, this formation would be 24 figures. Some people do 36. Some people do 36. But the standard is 24. Also, there's like 6 bases normally, and then you get to 4 figures per base and then 6 bases. You get the idea. Well, in this case, there's only 4 bases and they're 30mm. Now, Warlord Epic recommends 1 base being that big and having 4 of those. Well, first of all, that's twice as many figures. Plus, you're not saving anything when playing a larger battle, right? So I decided to go with half bases because I'm going to use a half range. And you only need 4 bases. I probably could do 6. I've considered doing 6. But I think I'm going to reserve 6 for my large units. I keep looking over here because that's where my camera is, but this, or my screen is, but this is where my camera is. So, okay. And I think these guys turned out very well. There was a couple of mistakes I made, and I noticed them just this morning. Basically, the flankers, I did paint them up as flankers, but they got mixed in with the bathwater. They're yeah, they're inside the unit, but that's okay, right? I think that's okay. I'll correct that on the next couple of units of militia. Plus, they're militia. Maybe they're disorganized. This looks like 40 models. Just casually glancing at it, it's not actually. There are like three models missing. So this one has a full 10. That one has a full 10. But if you look at that one, it's only got 4 figures in the back rank, right? And then if you look at this one, it's got 4 figures in the back rank. Okay, I guess there's 38. So I'm missing 2 figures. You can't really see this missing figure because the flag takes up that space on the side, right? I don't necessarily need to... I mean, you can see there's a missing man, but you don't really see that because of the flag. Another thing I've noticed about these Magister figs, so you can see the drummer boy is much smaller, right? The officer is a little bit bigger, meatier, and bulkier. I'm okay with all that. Yeah, so the drummer is a little bit shorter. He's a drummer boy. And if you look closely at the Fighting 15 flag, you can see that it even says Battalion Militia number 5. So that's cool. Super cool. And then there's my Dutch Lancers, which I actually did a whole video on painting the Dutch Lancers. So if you want to go check those guys out, you can go check that out. I did not do a video about painting those. All right. Getting that out of the way. now let's jump into the let's just turn autofocus on. Boop, that might help. All right. Trees. Okay, I still need to flock these guys with the static grass. I'm going to do that after the video. So come back Wednesday, see the results of that. Okay, so I've got I actually have 3 styles of trees. The third style I'm not worried about. It completes me. I don't need to use those. I've got apple trees and all kinds of cherry trees, all that kind of stuff. What else are they? They're like weeping willows, and there are a variety of different other trees that don't need to worry about them. The ones I were concerned about were these knock trees. You get 25 in a pack for $30. Okay, where these trees you get about 20 or so for like $7 or something like that. I mean, it's a much different scale. What do you call it? Cost, right? Cost per quantity. These are great trees. I super love them to death. Mainly because they come with stands, and it was a lot easier to assemble these on the bases and flock them. But I couldn't overlook the fact that these guys are also great. Now, and cost effective. Now, I've been putting them on these metal washers to keep them from tipping over or whatever. I'm going to experiment with some of my round 25 millimeter wood bases that I have from Litco. And I'm going to use my pin voice and drill a hole directly in the middle. And that way these guys can just slide down inside that hole as a little pin, and it'll make assembly a lot faster, I do believe. Because when I made these, I had to apply the putty and then wait like 24 hours before I could stick the tree into the putty. Yeah. Okay. So those trees come in these packs like this. And I got with big and small trees in these packages. Okay, hold on. There's 24 trees in here, so that's almost as many trees as that. Mixed brush tree is what it's labeled as, and scenic brush tree. Okay, I think that's just a because of the two colors, and there are two sizes, but they're fine. And I got 3 more of these, so that's almost another 75 trees. I'm gonna be, I think that's gonna be enough trees for the Bazoo Woods, I hope, and all the other little areas. Plus, I wanted to put a few of these trees on my cityscape bases as well. That way it gives them a little life. Yeah, so we'll see. These would have taken up too much space on those city sectors, and we're already struggling with managing how much space is on those city sectors. All right. Another thing. Old Glory. Okay, so I got some Old Glory models in. There's 517, 516. That's all we need to use to compare for right now. This comes with, this is the command pack, which comes with like 10 of these things. Or 9? No, there's one more, 10. 10 of these 5-man sprues. So you're looking at 50 figures here. That is a lot of figures for a command. And then this right here is the center companies. Right, this is center companies. And you get 20 of these in there for a total of 100 men, right? So I'm not really gonna compare scales until Wednesday, probably even later. I am gonna compare scales of these on Wednesday, but I believe I'm going to be disappointed, because just holding them up to these Magister miniatures, it looks like they're a little bit smaller. So we'll have to figure that out Wednesday. I'm probably going to open a pack and look at it today, just to get ready for Wednesday. Do an actual measurement and see if my fears are not justified, because looks can be deceiving. Plus, I want to paint a few of them up, because a painted model has a different size visually than a unpainted metal miniature. So because when I look just like these cab, they look bigger than they really are. They're larger than life. Get it? Okay. I feel like these will match up good with the Magister Militums, if not just barely. And even if they do, I can put these guys, even if I intermix my armies with Magister and Old Glory, what I could probably do, and this is something I thought about last night, was I could use like the Magister figures in the front ranks and then put a strip of these in the back rank, just to see how that looks. So mix my manufacturers on the same base. It'll give the unit kind of a if these guys are bigger, and I don't think they really are that much. I think they're maybe bulkier, but we'll see. If they're all Magister in the front and then all Old Glory in the back, you probably would never know the difference. And that's why I think I might use these. Okay, that's the 100 pack. Now the 50 pack, I'm extremely disappointed with. Extremely disappointed. Mainly because the flagpole. Now these guys are supposed to be British, right? And their flags are supposed to be ginormous. Even maybe not as big as like a 15mm flag, maybe not as big as that flag, but at least bigger than the flag that they have here in the package. It is hard molded. There's no snipping it, because plumes and the way it's molded, there's no getting rid of it. If I want to use these, just make a few bases of them and then just paint them with generic like English flags or whatever, I could do that. I would have to use 2 of these for a unit. So there's basically 5 units worth in here, because you know the British have the 2 flags. The flags just are too small. Yeah. Or at least they even if they're accurate, they're way too small. If you get my drift. I can't even snip the flagpole off and insert a rod because of the way it's molded to the side of the head. I don't know. It would take a lot of extra effort. I could probably trim like that plume down and snip it. I probably could do that. But we might do some experimenting with that just to see if I can. And if I waste 1 or 2 of these, it's not that big of a deal, because this whole pack was only $14. You know, this pack is $20 for 100 dudes. That's pretty good. And actually it comes out to 21 cents per man. It's pretty good. And this one is $14.50 for 50. So it's like 30 cents a man. That's as good as the Magisters. The Magisters are like 30 cents a figure. And okay. Okay, so we talked about trees, we talked about and I'm going to elaborate on all this again Wednesday. Remember, I just wanted to get this out for you guys today so that you could get a heads up on whether or not you wanted to come out and watch the next video. Plus, it just kind of helps me organize my thoughts. Okay. I bought 3 sets of brushes. This is Zen brush, okay, and I'm going to tell you I'm extremely pleased with these brushes, and I'll tell you these are what I plan to use for my dry brushing. I've already used this one on these guys. It's got a very stiff bristle. This is not a sponge brush like that Tamiya one that I bought. It has like a rounded head, right? So yeah, it's like a rounded, but it is still bristles. Okay. And they're super stiff. And for some reason, they advertise these scrapers on the back side of their brushes, which I don't care about that. What am I scraping? I don't know. It's mainly for like easel painting and stuff like that, but that's okay. And they come in larger sizes. The bristles are the same stiffness. This is a little softer, but I think that's because of the length, right? Okay, so great for dry brushing. And then this one, I considered this one for my tanks and stuff like that. It is a little bit softer again, but still great for dry brushing. Citadel would label this as a tank brush. Or no, this one would be a terrain brush. That one would probably be their tank brush. But I thought these were really good. Now these two brown ones, right? Same as these first two, but the bristles are way softer. Way softer. So depending on what kind of dry brushing or wet brushing or highlighting or just dusting or whatever you want to do with your models, these ones would be great as well. But I got this whole set mainly for these 3 white ones. Yeah, so you're looking at a 14 brush, an 8 brush, and a 2. Yeah, that's pretty good. And that was from Zen. I already used this one on those guys, and it came out. It was a pleasure to use. Let's just say that. Okay, I got 2 of these packs. This is size O, which I have not opened, and this is size O. You get 4 of the same brush, which is what I wanted. I wanted 4 of the same brush. This is going to be great for detailing my larger models, and this I actually used this for, and here's the one I used. I almost used exclusively, almost for everything, on my Dutch, right? So these Dutch were painted using this brush. Now I did pull out a 10-0 from ProArt to do the straps, but other than that, I think I used that for everything else. All right, so and these were $6-7 for a pack, something like that. So and they come with like these little Ziploc bags. I thought that was a nice touch. Okay, but downside on this brush, by the time I was done painting that unit, I could tell that one of the bristles started to separate. And so even with me cleaning after each color and stuff like that, it was disappointing. So I'll continue to use them and see if that was just an anomaly or if that was, or if they all do that. Okay, so that was the brushes. Old Glory. Trees. Okay. Before I get to the final grand chapter of this thing, I do want to say that I have an eBay store. If you want some painted models, go check out this eBay store. If you want miniatures painted on commission, you can contact me in 2 ways, right? You can contact me via email. If you email me, I will quote you a price for what you're wanting. You know, just basically we'll communicate and we'll talk about commissions. So like this one guy had some 18mm AB Napoleonics he wanted me to paint for him. I quoted him a price, and then he mailed me the miniatures, and then I paint them, and then I will post on I'll do an invoice like on PayPal, You'll pay, and then it'll all be done. But the second way to contact me is via eBay, because that's where I'm selling all my currently painted for sale models are on eBay. If you contact me on eBay for any reason, I am obligated by contract to keep the sale on eBay. So basically what I'm just trying to say is I've got a couple of customers. I got a couple of boxes right here. I got 2 more boxes on the way of people that want me to paint models for them, and they want to pay me for that. And so I feel that it is my duty to put all of my personal projects to the side to make sure that I take care of my customers first. They are willing to give me money, so I better make them happy, right? That's what I'm thinking. I'm old school customer service. Okay, so does that mean I'm going to stop painting on my projects? No, because I can do more than one thing at a time. And this one customer, he sent me like 4 projects and said, paint 1 project and then invoice me. And then and then once that's over with, paint another project and then invoice me. And I think that's a smart way to go. If you've got a lot of miniatures you need painted, break it up. I don't mind doing that. I'm whatever you want. I basically paint, base, flock, ship is all included in my quote. So if you want figures, I just tell you basically the cost per figure, and then you decide if you want to do it. If yeah, and then we go from there. All right, so I'm just saying, I've got like 6 projects going on. One guy sent a box. He sent 2 boxes with 4 projects, and then I've got 2 more boxes. So I've got a total of 6 projects on commission that I need to knock out. I don't think I'm going to have them done by Christmas. I mean, 10 days from now is Christmas Eve. I don't think I'm going to have them done. I might have one of the projects done, but then I will post it, ship it. It's going to take a little extra time to get to you, probably because of the delay in shipping and the holidays. So we'll see. I mean, I basically got my work cut out for me for a while. Okay, got that out of the way. Now let's talk about all my projects rolled into one, right? All my projects rolled into one. How many projects do I really have? Well, I've got this 10mm Napoleonic project, and that is my main project. Well, mainly because it's got like the most amount of figures. But I also love Ancients, Medievals, and American War of Independence, and World War II. But the World War II, I pretty much already have all my armies done, so there are no more projects there. But the projects I want to work on are my Ancients, my Medievals, and my American War of Independence. Okay, so now I thought about it. I was like, I'm falling in love with this scale for Napoleonics. And the way my mind works is I feel like a Napoleonic battlefield would look like if I was there in a hot air balloon looking down at a Napoleonic battlefield. I would see multiple ranks of men marching shoulder to shoulder, getting, you know, in their brigades and battalions and formed up in divisions and moving forward, chunk, 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 as they move forward, and then big musket fire, lines of troops blasting each other, 2 rounds a minute. Okay. That's kind of what and then cannons, going to town, cavalry charges, here and there. That's why I think 10 millimeter is, or an epic, or even we'll call it a grand scale, will look good on the table, because you'll have all these men ranked up like this. You'll have these battalions, ranked up, moving forward, emitting death. Okay. They're big enough where you can see who they are, but they're small enough that you're going to be able to get a ton of dudes on the table. That's Napoleonics. Okay. I'm going to jump to American War of Independence. Because you think Napoleonics, American War of Independence, same. No, it's not really. Because they were fighting by regiment, but the regiments were much smaller. So, like, this battalion is only part of a regiment. And it's like 600 men plus, right? Where, like in American War of Independence, a regiment might consist of 200 men. So am I going to say that's an American War of Independence, or am I going to paint up a bunch of 10 millimeter guys and just say that that's 200 guys? You could do that. That way you wouldn't have to change any scale, or, well, actually I would change the ground scale, because the figure scale would be closer to the actual number of men in the unit. But because they're smaller battles, they're done by division, or by, making an entire corps of troops, or 2 corps or 4 corps or whatever I need for Waterloo, is not necessary for American War of Independence. So if I play on the same size table, like a 5x9, I don't need to be tiny like that. I can bring the scale up, because I would prefer 54 millimeter models, right? But I'm not playing a skirmish level game. So I could bring up the scale of the model. Now, what does that mean? Oh, it's going to be more expensive for the same number of figures, and I'll probably have to use less figures per base. I can change what base I'm using. Currently, playing Black Powder on a 40x40, I think is still, it's probably just right. It could be considered perfect for American War of Independence. I think the Black Powder 40 millimeter 5x9 table 28 millimeter is perfect for the small battles. But there are a few battles, and there's, when I say small, I mean small area of battlefield. But there are some battles that there was major flanking actions happening, or, the Black Powder rules require you to roll for your movement distances, and there's no room for maneuver on a 28 millimeter 5x9 table. It's like, I line my guys up, you line your guys up, and we go at it. which is pretty close to the actual battles. But there were a few where there was some maneuver going. Plus, I want to have players give the players the opportunity to adjust, based on what they see on the other side of the table. And a 3-move, 36-inch movement is just too fast for that. It's too fast. So I'm thinking my idea is, I think I might bring my AWI, American War of Independence, down to 15 millimeter. I could still probably put them. Well, I can only put 6 figures on a base this size, but if I went, I could go with smaller bases and less figures, or I could go with bigger bases and more figures. I'm not sure. I'm thinking about that. I might go 10 mil, but I can get 15 mil pretty readily. You can get 15 mil pretty readily in any genre. 15 mil is probably the best scale for wargaming. So 15 millimeter AWI with a little modifications on base scales, numbers of figures. Now, I say 15 millimeters are more expensive, but that's a lie if you're using less figures. So like on a base like this, I would fit 6 15 millimeter models instead of 10, right? So I'm getting about half as many models for not double the cost. So it would be cheaper. It just wouldn't look as impressive as a Napoleonic battlefield. But then again, I don't think the American War of Independence battlefields were. I think there's a lot, the units are a lot smaller. So, and by going to and by going from 28 to 15, I'm going to be able to expand my battlefield and slow the movement, because shorten the movement and the ranges and stuff like that. As an aside, that means my buildings that I get are going to have to be 15 millimeters. So all my terrain and everything is going to be 15 millimeter, and my Napoleonics is going to be 10 millimeter. I'm okay with that because I'm not getting a whole lot. American War of Independence, remember, the battlefields are a lot smaller, the number of units is a lot smaller, the number of towns you're fighting around, farms or whatever, is a lot smaller. So if you want to get into the black powder rules, you might consider AWI, because there's a lot less figures you need to get. Okay, so I'm thinking about going 15 millimeter AWI, and then so the last thing I have is ancients and medievals. Well, ancients, I've already decided. I decided this a couple of days ago. I'm definitely 100% going 15 millimeter. I've already got a bunch of 15 millimeter ancients. I went out in my garage looking for Napoleonic models, and to compare with these 10 mils to kind of give you an idea, and you probably saw some of them. When I went out to the garage and dug through my trays on the wall, I found a ton of my 15 millimeter ancients that I had collected when I was playing Field of Glory, which I'm not playing Field of Glory anymore. But those packs have like stragglers. So like I have like 4 Roman legionaries, or 5 velites, or some Macedonian hypaspits, or this and that. So there's just some odds and ends, but there are so many of them that, and I already had ordered a bunch of Roman 15 millimeters from Old Glory just to kind of get the look of them, and they look good. So I think I'm going to do a Republican Roman army, Macedonian army, Carthaginian army, maybe Greek and Spartan, maybe, you know, a bunch of different armies basically. Oh yeah, gotta do the Celts, right? Well, I'm doing Carthaginian, so I don't know. Maybe throw some Numidians in there, maybe throw some Gaelic cavalry or whatever I need. So that's the period that I'm going to be doing is like Caesar's. I can even do Caesar's. I'm gonna focus on the Caesar campaign book that I have from Warlord. Uh, if I get that knocked out, I'm gonna have a great Republican Roman army. But Caesar's Romans were like the Marian reforms, and so they're all legionaries. But I want to do, that's not the army that I want to do. I'm going to do it. So, but that's not the one I want to do. I want to do the Republican Romans. So I think I'm going to build a Republican Roman army and just call them legionaries in that campaign. Because it was kind of a transition period. And then later on, if I want to do Caesarian Romans, I can still do that. Okay, so that's definitely going to be 15 millimeter, 100%. Another reason why I'm going with 15 millimeters instead of the 28s, because the 28s would look really good on the table, but I think there is less, like I was saying, the 40 millimeter bases, 12-inch movement just moves you too fast across the table when you roll a die. I don't know, it's just too rapid. And especially in the medievals, you shouldn't have that kind. And cavalry would have an 18-inch movement. So just imagine 3 times that for your companion cavalry. 3 times 18 inches, they're all the way across the table on turn 1. I don't like that. I don't like turn 1 games over. There's got to be some maneuverability. If they see the infantry slowly coming forward and then the cavalry shoots forward, your opponent can react to that. It gives them that one extra turn to adjust or form square or, you know, phalanx or whatever they need to do to make things happen. Yeah, that's why I'm going 15 millimeter with my ancients. Okay. This is where I'm struggling. My medievals. I want to do 28 millimeter medievals. And you say, Mr. Everything, why do you want to do 28 millimeter medievals? Also back up. My ancients rules, I might be using sword point and not black powder. So I'm going to have to dig deep into that before I decide on a basing convention and a moving across the table, because they've got some scenarios in there, and I just want to kind of see how big they want their units to be and how many figures that would be, and would it be conceivable to do 28 millimeter. I've already started a Republican Roman in 28, but I don't see a whole lot of sources for 28s, and my sources is just too expensive. I understand that Victrix has some Republican Romans in plastic, and that's what I'm using, but what about the others? You know, it's just too expensive, I think. So I think I'm going to go 15 millimeter metal mainly from Old Glory, but maybe some other companies. Okay, the medievals though. Perry makes a great line of medieval plastic models. They're not too expensive. They're 28 millimeter. They look good. I think I want to do my medievals in 28s, but for the same reason, I might not be. I'm going to use sword point for medievals 100%, right? Mainly because they do the 100 Years' War and the War of the Roses and Ancients. So that one whole rule set, kind of like not Black Powder, Hail Caesar, except the Hail Caesar rules does not go up into the 100 Years' War. None of their army lists do. I mean, you can make your own army list and you can do it, and the rules work just fine. But Swordpoint has thought it through. Plus, they have their own Romans and Celt Gaelic models. Plus, and they're inexpensive, and they're plastic. And then the Victrix has Ancients. I don't know. They don't have medievals, do they? But they have Perry does. Warlord does. Does Warlord have medievals? They don't. They sell Perry, don't they? But yeah, if I need to get metals, I have a bunch of metal Perry up there. I have a bunch of plastic Perry. I got tons of it. So I think I'm going to go Swordpoint 25s with my medievals. I could do 15s, and then it would pair up with my Ancients, but I don't think I'm going to do that. So basically, I'm all over the place is what I'm trying to tell you guys. 10 mil Napoleonics, 15 millimeter Ancients, 25 millimeter medievals, and then my AWI, I think I'm going to go 15 millimeter. And those are the 4 projects that I really am working on. I don't need to buy anything for my medievals. I've got a ton of medievals. I don't know what I need to buy. I just have a ton, and we'll figure out, what I need after I start organizing that. And once I learn the Swordpoint rules, which I've neglected to look. I've looked through them. I've watched some tutorial videos, but I still don't know the rules. But my main project that I'm working on right now is going to be my 10 mil Napoleonics. All right, the last thing before I let you go, and I didn't realize this video is going to be this long. It's almost an hour. I put a fairly sizable order in for Pendragon. I put a small order in for Old Glory, as you saw, Magister, you saw, GHQ, you saw, Warlord Ancients, not Warlord, Warlord Epic. You haven't seen those yet. I haven't seen those yet. Which they're supposed to come in at the end of January. That's the email I got back. End of January. So that's even a longer wait. And I'm not one to wait. So I put in a small order for Pendragon with flags and stuff like that. That order shipped. It's on its way. But I couldn't resist. I looked at these Magister Militum models, and I basically fell in love with them. The Magister Militum models, I super love. I'm taking a gamble. I'm risking it. So many people out in the community says that Pendragon is the way to go. So I'm taking it on faith that Pendragon is going to be like Magister. Now, when I've seen these models, they look a little bit bigger. They look like there's a little bit of scale creep. So if they're 12 millimeters, I'll be okay with that. I hope they're 12 millimeters, because that means they will blend really well with the Epic models. So what did I order? Well, I ordered all the Brunswick I'm going to need for Quatre Bras. All of it. Cannons, artillery, line, light, avant-garde, lead guard, generals, the Duke of Brunswick. So I ordered all of that. Now, that's with the understanding that I'm going to try to get as close to 40 figures per unit. There might be 39, there might be 38, just like I did this Dutch unit. You would never notice. It looks so, one or two missing men is going to be just fine. So I ordered everything for Brunswick. Then I said, okay, who else needs... I did order some Hanover in the first order that's already shipped, but not a lot, just maybe 1 unit worth. I ordered some Limbers, but I didn't order a lot. I only ordered like 4 Limbers per side. Basically, it was just a test, just to see how big these Limbers are, what they look like, what size bases I need to get. I ordered some French, just 1 battalion's worth. Not, it's like just a little bit. But then I said, okay, Dutch Belgians. I need a bunch of Belgians. So I ordered Jaegers, the Prince of Orange, the Dragoons, the Hussars, their foot and horse artillery, their line, which is Belgian actually, and then at least 2 more militia units, because there's 1. I need 2 more for a total of 3 for Quatre Bras. And I also ordered all the Nassau I was going to need for Quatre Bras. I ordered the volunteer companies, the 5 battalions of Nassau, so, all based around a 40-figure battalion. If I was to go exactly like Epic Warlord, then I'm actually using half the number of figures because I'm halving the base sizes. So it would be twice as expensive if I was making those full-size 60mm bases. But I think the scale is off, and so I'm holding out. I'm holding out that the Pendragon models are a little bit bigger and that they will work with the Epic Warlord. I don't think that's going to happen. I have pretty much set my eyes on 10mm Pendragon for Waterloo with maybe a few Magister units thrown in. The number of figures you get in a Magister bag and a Pendragon bag is different. You get 36, which in this case was actually 38. 36 in a bag and 12 in a bag for cavalry, where the Pendragon is only 30 figures and 15 cavalry. Now the 15 cavalry comes with the command figures that you need. I'm not sure about standard bearers though, so it might be beneficial to do all my cav in Magister, because not only do I get exactly 12 models, but I also get a standard bearer. I don't know. But I already ordered a bunch of Dutch and Brunswick calves, so we'll see. When they come in, I'll see if they have standards. If they don't, then we know where we're going with that. But if they are a little bit larger, that'll be great, because then I can use the French and the British out of the Warlord sets, and then I'm going to have to see if I can cut them in half to see if I can't get 2 5-man frontages. Which means the starter box that I get, I'm going to be able to double the number of battalions because I'm using half the number of figures. But the standards, I'm not going to have double the number of standards. So there's going to be half of the units are not going to have standard poles, which means I might have to order some command elements from Pendragon. But that's what I was getting at. Pendragon has 30 figures in a bag, and they have 30 command figures in their command bag. And their command figures, they have a standard, an officer, and a drummer times 10. So you get 10 battalions worth of those 3 figures, unless you're British, right? Yeah, so I would need the officer or the drummer, but then I would have to put them in a unit, and I would need to just take a couple of other models from something else and put them in formation with my epic figures. But again, I'm afraid that the epic is just going to be too big. It's going to be too close to 15 millimeters. Somehow they get 10 figures on a 60 millimeter frontage, so they can't be that much bigger. But if they are, if it's definitely a noticeable difference, then we just won't be able to use them. I'm gonna have to just stay with the metal 10 millimeter from Pendragon and Magister. Those are the two that I think I like, and maybe throw in some Old Glory strips in the second rank or something. I don't know how I'm going to work that out, but it would be cheaper if I'm able to do that. All right, guys, that was my store update, my Waterloo project update, my projects update, and just where I sit. I am going to take a couple of hours to elaborate on this. Plus, you'll be able to see these guys once they're flocked Wednesday, 11 o'clock Central Time. It goes up on YouTube almost immediately. So even if you miss the show, you can always watch it live later. But if you have any comments or anything like that, you could drop it here, or you can come chat with me live. I respond to your comments, and I will catch you tomorrow.